A wrestler's ring name can be a key part of their success. Do you really think John Cena would have won his 17th world title if he'd been called the Prototype? Would Hulk Hogan have been the star he was if he'd been called Terry Boulder? And would any of us remember Hardcore Holly if he'd stuck with Thurman Sparky Plug? Well, yeah, but probably not for the reasons he would have wanted. Sometimes a ring name is so appealing that more than one famous wrestler wants to use it, and that's what we're here to talk about today. Thank God not all of these names stuck, otherwise our lives would have been a lot more confusing. I'm Sam Driver from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are 10 wrestlers you didn't know shared a ring name. Join us! Number 10, Stone Cold Steve Austin and Dr. Death Steve Williams. Some wrestlers can get away with using their real names. Kurt Angle, Brock Lesnar, John Cena, Hulk Hogan. What do you mean his first name wasn't Hulk? Does everyone know this? One guy who couldn't pull this off was a man called Steve Williams. Born Steven Anderson, his name was legally changed when his mother remarried. Unfortunately, both of these names make him sound like an accountant, so something had to be done. Despite wrestling a few matches under his real name in the late 1980s, our hero finally decided on the alias that would forever define him: Steve Austin. The reason why the future Stone Cold changed his name wasn't just because it was boring, but because it clashed with another performer who was, at the time, more famous. The original Steve Williams is best known for being one half of the Miracle Violence connection with Terry Gordy and for being bloody tough as nails. He got around his dull name by sticking a badass nickname on the front of it, Dr. Death. The two Steves were famously meant to feud in WWE until Dr. Death was knocked out by Bart Gunn in the Brawl for All. Curse you, Bart. Number 9, Carmela de Cesare and Leah Van Dale. To anyone who watched the Diva Search in 2004, firstly, I hope you're getting all the help you need, and secondly, you might remember a woman called Carmela. Full name Carmela de Cesare, the former Playboy model finished runner-up in the competition, losing to future WWE and TNA star Christy Hemme. She had one match, if you can call a lingerie pillow fight at Taboo Tuesday a match, before disappearing from wrestling forever. Her ring name, however, would go on to much bigger things. In 2013, Leah Van Dale was signed to a WWE developmental deal. She quickly joined up with the beloved NXT tag team Enzo and Cass, taking on a name that suited her brash New Jersey persona. And you'll never guess what it was. The second coming of Carmela had a much better time than her predecessor. She won the first ever Women's Money in the Bank ladder match with a little help from James Ellsworth, the less said about that the better, and cashed in to become SmackDown Women's Champion. She also won the tag team titles, the 24/7 title, and the WrestleMania Women's Battle Royal. If you'd forgotten about those last two, then don't worry, you won't have been the only one. Number 8, Naomi and Trinity. Before she came down with a serious case of pregnancy, Naomi was on the run of her life. Ever since she turned heel in early 2025, she seemed like she was finally achieving her potential as a top star. This was even more impressive when you realize that just a few years earlier, she'd walked out of the company. Along with Mercedes Moné, Mrs. Big Jim stormed out of WWE while still in possession of the women's tag belts. She officially finished up with the promotion in 2023 before embarking on a tour of the Indies. Under her real name, Trinity, the athletic performer made waves in TNA, winning their Knockouts Championship. However, she wasn't the first person in that company to use that name. Between 2002 and 2005, NWA TNA was home to Stephanie Finocchio, who also wrestled using the name Trinity. She feuded with the likes of Jacqueline and Tracy Brooks before taking her name to WWE as part of the Full-Blooded Italians on ECW. Strangely enough, this Trinity also used caution tape as part of her attire. We would love to show you some pictures of this, but it would get us demonetized faster than you can say NSFW. Number 7, Chris Jericho and Adrian McCallum. Chris Jericho has gone by many nicknames in his illustrious career. Y2J, Le Champion, the Ayatollah of Rock and Roller, that bloke from Fozzy, Mr. He's from Winnipeg, you idiot. But one mantra that evolved into more than just a nickname was Lionheart. Jericho used this as his full ring name during his stint in Japanese promotion Wrestle Association R. He had matches against Perry Saturn, Ultimo Dragon, and Lance Storm, and even won the promotion's International Junior Heavyweight Championship Championship, all under this name. But many years later, another wrestler in a very different part of the world decided that he also had the heart of a lion. Adrian McCallum, a British performer who debuted in 2002, initially began wrestling as Leon Lionheart before dropping the first part, presumably because it sounded like a character from Final Fantasy. Best known for his time in Scottish promotion Insane Championship Wrestling, Lionheart won multiple titles north of the border, including the company's top prize. Lionheart sadly passed away in 2019 at the age of just 36. He was inducted into the ICW Hall of Fame in 2023 and is still greatly missed by the British wrestling scene. Number 6. Ricky Steamboat and Tito Santana. Ricky Steamboat is known for many things. Being great at wrestling, being very nice, being an actual dragon, but it's also a well-known fact that he's got a cracking real name. Born Richard Henry Blood, Steamboat wrestled quite a few matches with this name until promoter Eddie Graham advised him that it didn't fit his good guy persona. He used to shorten it to Dick Blood, which, you can see the problem with that one, can't you? While Graham was correct that the surname Blood didn't fit a blue-eyed babyface, it's still a cool name. I mean, you'd think someone else would have used it, wouldn't they? Well, as it turns out, they did. When he first joined the Georgia Championship Wrestling territory in 1977, the wrestler who would one day be known as Tito Santana was given the name Richard Blood. He used it for about 2 years, competing against legends like Pat Patterson and Randy Savage before ditching it when he left the company in 1979. Steamboat and Santana wrestled a few matches as a team when they were both in WWE. They missed a real trick by not calling them the Blood Brothers, or alternatively, the Two Dicks. Number 5. Montel Vontavious Porter and the Brooklyn Brawler. If you're gonna give your child the initials MVP, then it's your own fault when they grow up to be an arsehole. And that's precisely what Mr. and Mrs. Porter did when they sired young Montel Vontavious. Debuting on WWE TV in 2006, this brash, showboating, athletic standout quickly took the company by storm. MVP, real name Hassan Assad, would take the gimmick all over the world, wrestling for promotions like New Japan, TNA, and AEW. He might be the wrestler most associated with those 3 letters, but he wasn't the first. Steve Lombardi has got to be in contention for the wrestler with the most stupid gimmicks award. Well, him and Brutus Beefcake, that is. Best known as the Brooklyn Brawler, he's been Kamala's handler Kim Chi, an incarnation of Doink the Clown, a Black Knight, and a bizarre baseball character that debuted in 1993. A version of this character would eventually be known as Abe Knuckleball Schwartz, but when he first used it, Lombardi went by the name MVP, short for Most Valuable Player. Sadly, these two have never had a match, although they are both still active. Book it, Tony! Number 4. Devon, Dudley, and Albert. Another contender for that Most Stupid Gimmicks award is the man currently in charge of the next generation of WWE. Matt Bloom, current head trainer at the Performance Center, first arrived in the Fed as Prince Albert, later shortened to just Albert. He wrestled as Giant Bernard in Japan, which was later bastardized as Lord Tensai in WWE. Some fans may also know this bald behemoth as A-Train. This is the name he used during his handicap match against The Undertaker at WrestleMania 19, and the match was handicapped because it involved Nathan Jones. But if things had gone differently, then we might associate this vehicular-based name with another iconic star. At an ECW house show in March 1996, the tag team of the Eliminators took on the makeshift duo of El Puerto Ricano and, you guessed it, A-Train. And 1 month later, that same wrestler debuted under the name that would one day take him to the WWE Hall of Fame, Devon Dudley. Given that Devon's real name is Devon Hughes, we're not entirely sure where the A in A-Train came from. Clearly, Paul Heyman isn't as good at spelling as he is at managing wrestlers. Number 3. George Wagner and Stephanie Bellas. The first golden age of professional wrestling took place in the 1940s and 50s, and there was no bigger star than Gorgeous George. Born George Wagner in 1915, the Gorgeous One blazed a trail as one of the first real characters of the sport. His flamboyant, audacious persona made him public enemy number one up and down the country, and he inspired pretty much every heel that followed him, including a certain Macho Man. Randy Savage was a massive Gorgeous George fan. He lifted his pomp and circumstance theme directly from him, and even bought the rights to his name. So, how did he celebrate his hero's legacy? By giving his name to one of his valets, of course. Stephanie Bellas debuted as one of Savage's managers in 1999. Alongside Medusa and Miss Madness 2000, the future Molly Holly, Bellas joined the Team Madness stable, adopting the Gorgeous George label in the process. In terms of in-ring work, Bella's biggest achievement is beating Charles Robinson at Slamboree 1999. In fact, that was her only in-ring achievement, because she mostly just stood around outside the ring. I'm sure the original Gorgeous George couldn't have been prouder. Number 2, Stevie Ray and Glenn Jacobs. Harlem Heat are one of the greatest tag teams in wrestling history, especially if you ask Booker T. The duo consisted of G.I. Bro and his real-life bro, Stevie Ray, and they ruled over the WCW tag scene with ruthless efficiency. Before they gained the names that we all know and love, the brothers debuted under entirely different identities. Booker was known as Cole, with a K because he was cool, whilst his older sibling was given another one-syllable moniker, Kane. For over a year, Stevie Ray competed on WCW TV as Kane, and he dropped it in late 1994, around 3 years before a certain other wrestler picked it up and took it all the way to the top. And you don't need me to explain who the proper Kane is, the big red machine, the devil's favorite demon, old fire pants himself. He's a bona fide legend in ring. Quick fun fact as well, before Glenn Jacobs' iconic debut at Bad Blood, his kayfabe brother also went by Kane. Sorta. Kane the Undertaker was originally how the Dead Man was billed during the early days of his run, before the first name was cut and he started going solely by his job description. And number 1, he's only bloody gone and done it again, Glenn Jacobs and Mantaur. Now, he might have been inducted into the Hall of Fame as Kane, but Glenn Jacobs has had more ring names than you've had hot dinners. Before he donned the mask in WWE, he wrestled as a fake version of Diesel and Jerry Lawler's personal dentist, Isaac Yankem DDS. Spartacus, Doomsday, Unabomb, the goddamn Christmas creature. Then there's his stint in WCW. And by stint, I mean one match. Jacobs lost a squash match against Sting on WCW Saturday Night in May 1993. The name he used that night was Bruiser Mastino, a name that actually belonged to another wrestler with a famous bit of headgear. Mike Halleck went by Bruiser Mastino in both the Continental Wrestling Association and his early appearances in WWE. The name didn't last long, however, as he was quickly repackaged with one of the greatest gimmicks in wrestling history, Mantaur. Half man, half bull, all bollocks, Mantaur lasted for less than a year in WWE before everyone realized that it was the dumbest thing anyone had ever seen. Halleck reverted to the Mastino name after he left WWE, but the stench of Mantaur followed him for the rest of his days, poor guy.